let us know, man. What are you looking at this? I know you say you got volume 2 coming out, right?
Volume 2 this year.
Volume 2. So look, right now we got how to use all this math, volume 1, right? I will put it up when we put up the video so y'all can see it. You know what I mean? Where can you find this book at?
Right now it's available on Amazon.
Ooh. Amazon
right now. Yeah.
Listen, go check it out, man. Honestly, because there's a lot of categories here that I'm. As you can see, if you're watching the episode to now, I'm asking him like, "Oh, damn, I see all this right here." Like, it's very relatable for sure. You know what I'm saying? So
even when you go to the supermarket and you don't know the prices of some charges on the tags, he shows you.
Yeah,
there you go. You
know what's so crazy too? I see you got how many months old are you, right?
Yeah.
And like I never understood why somebody would be like, yeah, I'm like 39 and a half. I'll be like, I'm thinking, you know, if you're gonna say an age, you know, just do a whole number, right? And then now I just learned that when somebody says that, it means like there's 6 months into the year.
Yeah.
It's a way to practice. It's a way to practice math. My favorite chapter, if I could talk about that, my favorite chapter in the book is something, and again, a lot of this stuff is battle tested. Like my daughter's right over there. Like she'll tell you, like a lot of this stuff, like it's stuff that I did with her. So it works.
He's born proof.
She's living proof. She's solid in math, right? So my favorite chapter is the negative age chapter. Like what is your negative age, right?
I just looked at that.
So one day I was like, the way that came about was one day I'm like, you know, I'm talking to her, I'm talking to Asada, I'm like telling her about something that happened like when I was like 5 years old or something. Yeah. And I'm like, Asada, something just told me to just ask her this question. I'm like, Asada, how old were you when that happened? She looked at me like I'm crazy. Like, Dad, I wasn't even born yet. What you talking about? Like, what you mean? Like
negative age.
Negative age.
But I was trying to introduce her to the concept of negative numbers.
Yeah.
Right. So and it enables her to do some calculations. So she knows what year she knows how old I am.
Right.
At the time of me telling her the story. So then she goes back and says, okay, well you must have been born in 1980. Mm-hmm. So therefore, when you was 5 years old, what year was that? Do some more math. Add 5. It's 1985. She knows what year she was born. 2012. So she's got to find the difference between 2000. So we talked about the number line earlier.
Yeah.
Her 0. You talk about like what if 0 got taken out of the number system, right? Yeah. Her 0 is the year 2012. So for all of us in our number line, our birth year, that's our year 0. Yeah.
Yeah. Peace, bless, love. Give thanks to that man above. You're now rocking with Mr. Uncommon.
What's the word, everybody? Y'all already know who it is. It's the Fresh Prince himself, Izzy Finesse.
And the one and only Jconfident. Remember, y'all, success isn't about just what you achieve. It's about the knowledge you share and the experiences you create. Shout out to Akil Parker for proving math is more than just numbers. It's empowerment. Let's go! Yes, sir. We are back to another week.
Yes.
Welcome, y'all.
Yes. Yep. Just came back from a premiere too yesterday. You know, shout out to LaSalle Productions for that. It was a great movie. A great independent filmmaker came out with a movie called The Security Guard, and we watched it yesterday. Shout out to LaSalle.
It's all about the experience.
We hit 1K subscribers too, right? So you already know what that means. We're monetized now. So if you have any donations, y'all could go right there under this video. Hit the super thanks. Y'all could donate whatever to us. You know, $1, $10. You know, maybe $1,000 if you're feeling good one day.
Hey.
But subscribe, like, and also share to anybody that you know.
Yes, sir. Also, check us out on TikTok, TikTok. We also throw videos up there. The U.S. is still running with the TikTok, so we appreciate that. Also, check the audio listeners. I'm everywhere today. The audio listeners, I appreciate y'all, man. Continue downloading, continue streaming. Not only that, shout out to Listener Network. We appreciate y'all. Yeah.
Fucking Josh, bro. America's still running on TikTok.
There you go. Bro, we were supposed to get banned 2 weeks ago.
I know.
So I'm happy we still running with that. And you can go live now without even having 1,000 followers. That's even better.
Is it really?
Yeah, bro. That's fire.
That's crazy.
Shout out to TikTok.
Shout out TikTok, bro. All right, man. Yeah, so today's episode on Off Xperience, man, we're tapping into the power of numbers. You understand? Knowledge and culture. This man is a force in the world of education, using math as a tool to empower, uplift, and reconnect us to our history. As the founder of All This Math, LLC, and creator of Hystematics, He's breaking down complex concepts and making them real, relevant, and revolutionary. Philly's own math guru is in the building.
Let's
Akil
go.
Parker, welcome to Off Xperience, sir.
A lot of applause for that right there.
I appreciate that. Appreciate
Yes,
that.
sir.
Glad
Yes,
to
sir,
be
man.
here. Glad to be in the building.
Yeah, bro. Appreciate for you, like, you know, taking your time to come down here to the Bronx, New York.
Yeah,
All the way from Philly.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's different.
North
I was
Philly.
I was born in the Bronx actually, so
Oh.
this was it's kind of like a homecoming. I always like coming back to New York.
Homecoming. I like that. I like
Okay,
that.
I like that.
Is that like exclusive information? Like you have it, like you never put that out in anywhere?
Nah, people know that. That's part of my story. I grew up in Baltimore, so I spent my formative years in Baltimore because we moved to Baltimore when I was like 7. So that's where I basically grew up. And then after college, I relocated to Philly. So that's how I ended up in Philly
Got you.
ever since. And now I kind of look at it like I got like dual citizenship.
Yeah, you do.
I'm always in Baltimore all the time, like making
Right.
moves.
That's dope. That's fire.
I mean, it's tri-state, like, you know, and like we was just in Philly too. You know, if you haven't, go watch that Eamon Brown episode. We shot it on a rooftop. We had a whole view of Philly, and it was very beautiful.
Different. Very scary. Very scary, but different.
Josh almost fell off the roof.
Yeah. Trying to
Yeah.
save the lid for our
crazy.
equipment to make sure we have a lid for the equipment.
That's crazy.
I'm about to jump in front of it, like, oh my God! We're 3 feet away from the edge, and they don't even have a cement edge. It's just 3 wires.
Yeah,
So I would either fell over or in between the wires. You know, whatever death chose for me.
Like Bishop on Juice.
yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Word.
Yeah, pretty much. But there ain't no Omar Epps though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's get into it, man. Real quick, tell us about your roots. Where did you grow up, and how did that environment shape your mindset around your education?
So grew up in Baltimore, and went to public schools, but I went to like the special admission, schools, where they kind of like you get access to different resources, more academic rigor sometimes. Still the same issues though. A lot of like cultural violence, white supremacy. You still get that, but fortunate for me, I had parents that kind of instilled certain things in me, like certain like historical awareness from a young age. So that wasn't those challenges weren't much of an issue. My father was a teacher.
Okay.
My father was a teacher, so that motivated me too because I never wanted to bring bad grades home.
Yeah. Yes, I hear you on that one.
You know what I mean? So yeah, but I was pretty much a strong student. All through my K through 12 experience, and it's pretty much in math too. But I didn't really love math. I liked it. It was cool. But I liked getting good grades.
Okay.
And I liked, getting the clout off of having good grades and being like, the guy, he's real smart. You know what I'm saying? I like that recognition around the way. Like, so.
Like, was you that person that everybody would copy off on the test? Like, it would be like, yep.
Or were you that person that will hover around your paper?
No, I think, because like, in my class, we kind of was like all on the same level. So it wasn't too much of that. Sometimes I might have needed to look on somebody else's paper sometimes, you know what I mean? Or, sometimes, somebody might have looked on mine, it was all good. But education has always been like, very important to me. But I never wanted to be a teacher though.
Right.
That's the thing. Like a lot of people like, I would never want to be a teacher. I was kind of on that too. It wasn't until like I graduated from Morgan, went to Morgan State University in Baltimore. Shout out to Morgan. And I graduated with a degree in finance.
Okay.
Originally, I wanted to be like either an investment banker or some type of like securities trader, come back to New York, work on Wall Street, something like that. That didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting a job as a bank examiner, with the FDIC. So bank examiners, so basically the FDIC is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. They insure your deposits. Now, it used to be 100,000, but now up to 250,000. So it's basically a government insurance agency. But of course, you know how insurance companies are. They never want to pay out claims.
Facts.
So what happens is they pay out claims if the bank fails or goes out of business.
Gotcha.
Right? So what they hire examiners to go into the banks, do the audits to make sure the bank is safe and good, so the government won't potentially end up having to pay out the claims. If you think back like to the old school movie, It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
The guy that came into the bank, he was the bank examiner. That was about to shut the bank down. That was like harassing him. He was the bank examiner.
Okay.
Right? That's that. So I did that for like a year. That wasn't a good fit for me. They were about to fire me, and I resigned to avoid the termination, so I wouldn't have it on my record. Then after that, I was, I had a couple of dollars saved up, so I was cool. But I was looking for my next move, and I also had a baby on the way. So it was a sense of urgency. I was like, I need a job. I can't just, I got somebody I'm going to be responsible for in a certain amount of months. So I started doing after school tutoring, which led to a long-term substitute position at a charter school in North Philly. and then it was 10th grade geometry, and then I just decided at that point, like this was 2005. So this month is like my 20-year anniversary of like being in the classroom. This month,
Nice.
March
20 years?
Congrats.
Yeah, March 2005.
Congrats,
That's
bro.
crazy, right? Because you say that, and today is also Pod Day.
Yeah, and it's Pod Day. Yeah, so like I
Everything's
really-
aligning.
Yeah,
right,
so I
everything.
always appreciate any opportunity I have to talk about math, but to talk about math on a podcast on Pod Day, like that's decent. That's even more decent.
Exclusive, y'all. We talking about math on Pod Day.
Math on
Drop a
Pod
bomb
Day.
for that.
Yeah.
And
So
if y'all don't know what Pod Day is, then y'all gonna need to Google it. Or y'all might learn something now.
Yeah. So speaking of Pod Day, now you're gonna get into my segment, right? And I'm gonna start it off right now, right? So this is the Get Fresh with Izzy segment right here, and I'm gonna start it off because I had to come through with this special shirt, right? And it says that this body is an independent thinker. This is what it says on it.
I got you. Okay.
You don't know my body?
This body is an independent
All right.
thinker.
All right. All right.
I don't know if y'all can see. Hold on.
Yeah, that's
it?
fresh.
Okay.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. So shout out to Advisory Board Crystals. Like I just felt like it just had to go with this episode right now because we're gonna get all the knowledge, all the education on math. So it was only right. I got on the gray sweats and then little Nike SBs right here.
Easter.
That's how we doing it today.
Nice.
Heard you. All right. All right. Before we get to your socks.
Facts, right?
Oh my God. Jacket. Zara's. I don't know.
That's your worldwide goods.
Worldwide goods. Worldwide goods. Right.
Facts.
Sweater. H&M jeans. H&M. Got my Pumas sneakers on. All right, my dad hat. Dad hat. Hey, stop playing. I'm telling you. Send that merch, man.
Bro, just send it
Stop
over
playing
here.
too much.
Facts. Oh, okay. You
That's
finished?
it. Nah, yeah, we finished. Watch, accessories, my bracelet. That's it. We good.
I got on, y'all see the orange kufi, my little hats that I always wear. I got a Fashion Nova sweater here, a little rose, little beige brown type of look thing with the red, and my beige khaki pants. I got like maybe 4 or 5 pants like this because working security shit like
Best
that.
part is
A whole
coming
bunch.
up. The best
And
part
then
is
I
coming
got my New Balances,
Not yet,
the
not
tri-colors, the different color New Balances. I love these. I actually went all out. But the socks though. I know the
That's
socks.
part.
I got a pair of Sour Patch socks. Now, these are dope. You see the colorway on these, right? Y'all ain't gonna see nothing like this. But shout out to Sour Patch. I need to send me these socks. Odd Socks, I will be contacting y'all, man, so we can work together. But yeah, this is my fit, my accessories, my little beads I got going on here, what I'm saying,
I come with like
That's
every
it.
different type of socks, bro.
Just start
That's
calling him
it.
Sacco.
That's it. Call me
Sacco.
Sacco, baby. Call me Sacco. And that's my fresh fit today. So we got.
My turn?
Yeah,
Your turn.
that's it,
All right, so I
that's
got the All This Math original trucker hat. Got some more All This Math merch, All This Math hoodie.
Merch, yeah.
Just some black jeans and the reimagined bread 4s, which I use. Like these are like instrumental and like presentations I give when any Jordans, not just Jordans, but any like old school sneakers that are like retro.
Retros, yeah.
I use these to talk about old math versus new math. Because a lot of parents especially complain about the new math, and new math is not really a thing, right? It's kind of like, for example, like, my daughter's over there, she got some cool gray 11s, right?
Yeah.
Those originally came out in 95. These original bread 4s came out, and the 4s came out in 89, right?
Yeah.
So they're old shoes, but you can get a new pair when Nike re-releases them. That's kind of how what people think is new math,
Which is the same shit.
is really old math that
Same
might have
thing.
been like developed or
Different design.
discovered by like, our ancestors like 5,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you might not have went to a school like me. Like when I was a young and like when I was my daughter's age, I didn't have Jordans,
Facts.
Yeah, facts.
right? I didn't get Jordans till I was a grown man. That's kind of how what people think of the new math, what new math is. It's the old math repackaged, rebranded. And then some of us went to schools where they didn't necessarily teach it that way because a lot of us, like myself, you might have went to a school, but they just straight gave you the formula, just give you the steps and just get the answer.
Right.
They might not have really showed you like different methods, like, because it might be like 8 or 9 different methods to like do multiplication.
True.
But your school, like, like schools I might have went to, they might just be like, look, this is an efficient way. Just learn this one way and you good. But then it's like, but nowadays children are being taught like different ways to do it. also the concept behind why it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas like you might not have learned that like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So I use the Jordans as like a way to describe
That's a
that
good
and
analogy.
explain
That's
that.
a
It's
good
like
analogy. That's a good analogy for
yeah,
sure.
just because it's a new shoe. Like you might be fresh out the box, dead stock or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like really this shoe was from '89.
Yeah.
Facts. Yeah.
Shoes from
A lot of
1989.
kids don't really know about that.
Yeah, they
that
don't.
being
Like,
that.
yeah,
right.
if you're
That's
just
so
born,
crazy.
you don't know. Like it's old. Nah,
Like
they
they
knew.
don't came out like 3 times already.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
That's
they
so
think it's the
crazy.
first time coming out. Oh shit, no, like, they've been out.
That's a good way to like relate math to sneakers though too, because
Yeah.
you know like the kids in the hood they will see that and like okay it's Jordans and then there's math too, so it's like it all goes hand in hand with each other.
I mean, it's new to me. I'm sorry to cut you because that what you explaining it that way, I'm like, oh shit, he's right. Because my 9-year-old when he comes home from school and he has me do the homework with him, I look at the math, I'm like, yo, dude,
Right.
like what is this?
What was it, long division?
You might not have
Nah,
seen
I
it.
hate long division.
Yeah,
but it's all the other stuff that's there. I know most of the like the work that's there, but they want to do extra to it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, damn, bro. Like,
And I want people to know, I want people to understand that's watching this, like the purpose of the extra is to like prepare them for like the higher level math.
okay.
Because what often happens is like, it's a lot of kids that'll be like, I like the math until you introduce the letters into it.
Yeah.
So they get, when they get the algebra, it's like, oh, I hate math now, I don't understand. So a lot of these concepts that they're teaching in arithmetic now, for like on the elementary school level, are meant to like prepare them for algebra and geometry and the higher level math. So when they hit that, they'll already be used to it. It's like, okay, we got to use these methods. It's like, oh, well, we did this in 2nd grade and in 3rd grade. Whereas like a lot of us back in the day, we didn't get it like that. So a lot of people, once they got the algebra, they like hit a wall. They're like, oh, I don't fuck with math.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm good now.
Not simple math anymore.
But the key is it's like, it's a good strategy, but it's got to be done properly. Like a lot of teachers got to be trained properly in order to do it. So what we call the new math, like teachers got to be trained in like how to teach that. And a lot of teachers aren't properly trained. A lot of colleges don't have enough time or don't like offer in the curriculum enough math classes. And then, when you get hired as a teacher, you don't have enough professional development time and enough time to really develop your craft.
Facts.
So you kind of like just like learning on the job.
You just follow the curriculum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, so that's why I create the resources that I do, But I was gonna say something more about the Jordans, like, and this is kind of ties into one of like my initiatives is to help people to just see the math that's already around them. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you're a parent, like you buy your child some Jordans or whatever, like you can use that as a way to teach Roman numerals.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what
true.
I'm saying? Like,
That's true.
because the 4, like on the boxes,
Yes,
I don't know, like
yes.
sometimes on the box they got the IV,
Yeah, you're
right? So it's like, your child might, what does IV mean? Like that's Roman numerals,
Right. Yeah, that's
the
true.
I means 1, the V means 5, and then it's like it's really like an algebraic equation, just figuring out what the Roman numeral means. Because if the smaller value is before a bigger value, that means you got to subtract the smaller from the bigger. So you got to do the 5 minus 1 to get the 4. But like with the Jordan 6s, which might be my favorite Jordan actually, the 6, maybe 6 or 11, I'm not sure, but the 6 is VI, right? So when the bigger value is first after the smaller value, you got to do addition.
Yeah,
So you got to do the 5 plus the 1 to get to the 6. So you can use it for that. And it's like a lot of stuff, like even with the the different.
Well, real quick, I'm sorry. Just hold your thought real quick right there. Let's just finish the segment off, and then we can
yeah, my
continue.
bad, my
No.
bad.
Then we can continue. No, because you're the last one, so we just end it off right there. Then you continue on what you're saying with this nigga. Well, that concludes already.
Yeah, that concludes my segment right there. Get fresh.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Because we got fresh and we
Yeah.
learning math.
That's what I'm saying.
For real.
All right, so that concludes that. So yeah, but go continue on with.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of different examples of ways like we can use algebra just in like things that's already around us anyway. Like people buy when you get a pair of designer shoes or whatever, they got the Euro size.
Yeah.
There's an algebraic formula you use to figure out like, okay, like what's the American size? You know what I'm saying? Like
I'm pretty. I
it's
go
a
to
formula.
Google to go look at it. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Because a lot of them just true to the European stuff. It's like 40 something.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is my size, bro? I
So
don't
like
know.
46 is a 13, but I mean, of course, most you can just look it up. You can Google it. So what's 46?
But I know there was a
It'll tell you.
formula too. I'm pretty sure there was, but I didn't know.
It's a mathematical formula. So what I advocate is like for children to like meet. It's all about meeting people where they at. So it's like, okay, this is what you like. This is what you're interested in. Okay, cool. I'm gonna show you how to use algebra with that thing that you like.
Right.
Whether it's sneakers, whether it's like sports or whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the New Balance 990 is a popular shoe.
Right.
Facts.
So 990 is a number,
Yeah.
right? So then let's play around with the 990. Let's flip it and bounce it. Let's like divide 990 by random numbers. Let's do the prime factorization of the number 990. Let's like break it down, right? So it's all about just like meeting people where they at. like, and just making it, because
Just
what
make
it is
understand
like,
people feel comfortable with.
people
to learn it. Yeah,
people have been, and I don't think it's really through no fault of our own. Like a lot of us, the society just it strives to make you intimidated of math,
numbers in general.
and numbers in general, because math is, and it's not it's like what AZ say on Life's a Bitch on Illmatic, ain't nothing coincidental or accidental. Like math is the gatekeeper to a lot of opportunities.
Facts.
Not only opportunities in STEM, but in business, but also not only that, like the hidden value of math is just being a problem solver. Like a lot of people think like, well, I gotta learn this. Like I'm never gonna be in a grocery store and have to use the quadratic formula or Pythagorean theorem. Like a lot of stuff that we say, right? But because you might not know as a child, you might not understand, and your teacher might not really understand it that well enough to be able to kick it to you like, yo, like nah, like because what's happening is you're training your brain how to think, right?
Facts.
And we human beings, we're gonna have problems inevitably. Inevitably, we're gonna have problems. So whether it's like you in 10th grade in a geometry class trying to figure out this proof, or figure out like prove this is a right triangle. It's like, all right, well, like what rules do I know? How can I actually prove that? Like that's a problem that has to be solved. So you got to learn how to think about problems and learn how to figure things out just as a responsible human being. Fast forward like years later, you might have a challenge with your baby mom. And then you got to figure that out, right?
17%.
It's a problem.
That's where he was going. I know that's where he was going.
It's a problem that's got to be figured out.
Yeah.
But a lot of us, like, if we don't know how to solve problems or even identify problems, then you end up responding
That's why they
emotionally.
say
Exactly.
too, like,
you end up crashing out because you don't have no other option. But if you know how to solve problems, you sit back and just like assess the situation. You stay calm. You're like, okay, what am I dealing with? What are the facts? Let me consider all the facts. Okay, what should my next move be? It's almost like you playing chess.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how to play chess, what you gonna do? You're just gonna get angry, try to fight somebody.
You're just gonna be good at checkers.
Yeah, exactly. And like math is one of those subjects too where you have to problem solve most of the time too. And it's crazy, right? Because you said geometry, right? You came in first as a geometry teacher.
Yeah, that's when I started. Yeah, 10th grade geometry.
It's crazy, right? Because I did algebra, right? I did algebra freshman year, and my sophomore year and junior year, I did geometry, and I never passed geometry. Like I never went beyond geometry. Like there was like calculus and everything, and I never got the like experience of that math. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, me neither. I got as far as you did.
And I took the test so many times, and like I always fail like 64, and I'll be like, yo.
And then when
but
somebody,
it's like it wasn't like I was bad at it, but usually you know like when the test comes.
Yeah.
Like that's when you kind of fold. Yeah, the pressure's there.
The pressure's definitely there.
But
I understand that because even when I was in school and I got hit with, I didn't even pass geometry. I've learned some of it, but when they threatened me that saying that calculus is coming next, I got scared.
Yeah,
I got intimidated by it. Exactly. I was like, you know what, I ain't dealing with this shit.
And that was in high school, right? But I seen that like you try to say that calculus should be taught in middle school.
Yeah, earlier. But if you're prepared for that, but I'm like, I think that should be our goal, like to, because for one thing, like we don't have to like rely on the schools for like their scope and sequence and their like curriculum. Like a lot of times, like the system and the society attempts to dumb our children down. So and a lot of stuff gets retaught. Like a lot of like algebra that you learn in like algebra 1 and 9th grade.
Yeah,
like,
schools is outdated.
You could learn that like as a math teacher, right? So I always taught my children always had a head start. Because I had the luxury of like knowing a lot of the math. So I'm like, well, like my oldest son, Nassim, who's 19 and is a sophomore down at Morgan too.
Nice.
I had him doing algebra when he was 6 years old, right? And it's not that he was like a genius. I mean, he was an intelligent little young brother, but
definitely got a push. I had started.
Yeah, it's like, but I taught him.
Yeah, right.
And then I was like, well, this is definitely not on his. He was in first grade at the time. Like, this is not on the first grade curriculum in the school district of Philadelphia, right? But he can handle it though. Okay. And I'm like, I would go into his classroom and I would like chaperone trips and whatnot. So I would like, interact with some of his classmates. I'm like, a lot of them they can handle this too. So it really makes you think like, okay, what's really going on, right? So, and that's why like as parents, one of the things I push for is for us to get more active and, to be able to like start teaching our children things on our own, right? So our children can get ahead of the curve. Right. But what's required though is like, we got to actually learn it. But then in order to learn it, you can't just tell people like, yo, you need to go learn this, go learn that. Like, okay, well, how? You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're dealing with like a lot of people that are intimidated, had negative experiences in math classes. You know what I'm saying? Might have failed math classes or, felt intimidated or whatnot. That's why you got to create the resources. Yeah. That's why like, the book, the YouTube channel, you know what I'm saying? Just to like a way to like make people feel comfortable with math.
Yeah. So right there, it's crazy. It's good that you say that, right? Because that leads into like one of like this question, right? Like, I know math proficiency gaps in the inner cities aren't about abilities, right? Like, they're about opportunities. Studies show that Black and Latino students in underfunded schools struggle more in math, right? Not because they can't do it, but because larger class sizes, right? Outdated resources, what you're saying right there, lack of access to quality instructions, you know what I mean? So in your experiences, right, what are the biggest barriers preventing kids in our communities from excelling in math, and how do we start shifting that narrative?
The biggest barrier that I see is all the negative propaganda around math. All the math is too difficult. Like, that seed gets planted. Like, when somebody plants that seed, and a lot of times parents do it. You know what I'm saying? Even if parents don't come out and say it directly, like, you don't need math. Like, think about how, like, a lot of parents behave, like, when their children bring the math homework home. Like, how do you navigate? How do you maneuver? What does your body language even look like? Your kids be like, yo, Dad, can you help me with this? Mom, can you help me with this?
And you clueless and shit.
How do we act? You know what I'm saying? Like, we act kind of defeated and whatnot. You know what I mean? So the children internalize that. They pick up on that. And then I think sometimes, like, children are like, well, all right, they draw conclusions. And like, oh, my mom doesn't know math really good. My dad don't know math really good. My aunts, my uncles, my grandparents. And then they look around. They're like, yo, this house is pretty nice. And we got a car. And, like, you know what I'm saying? I get the Air Max and the Jordans when they come out and whatnot. Like, so maybe they still getting money then. So maybe you don't need math. And you can still, like, live a good life, right? They arrive at that conclusion, right? But, so that's part of it too. Like, parents and just people in the community, like, just being, like, very negative. That's why, like, I like coming on, like, podcasts like this to have, like, positive conversations around math. A lot of people have negative conversations. Well, first off, people don't really talk about math on a podcast, right?
Right.
But if they're on a podcast and math comes up, it's usually like, nah, I was never good at math. They just throw that out there, right?
That's
like
the
status
they limit
quo.
themselves on educating themselves as well. We're never too old to educate ourselves, man.
No, it's not.
One thing I think about is like a lot of I think about, like, a lot of the commercial rappers that go on podcasts, right? And one thing that a lot of them say is, like, I was never good at math. Like, I failed math in school, right? But then the same podcast, they'll end up saying, yeah, my first deal was a 360 deal.
Got
I
him.
signed that worst deal, right? But we always think, like, oh, well, you didn't understand the contract. You think it's reading comprehension, right? And it is a reading comprehension issue, but not only. It's also a math comprehension issue. It's a math literacy issue, because every contract you ever see is really just a long math word problem. That's what any contract is, right? Whether it's your credit card bill, the fine print on the back of the bill when they send it to you in the mail, all them numbers, like how they calculate the average daily balance, all that stuff, right? It's a long math word problem. Like my man down in Baltimore, Steve Williams, that runs KDW Catering, he says, life is just one big math equation. Right, that's what he says, and I agree with him. It's like it's one big math equation. So when you get into the contracts, especially, it's just one big math equation. So it's like you went from saying you didn't need math, you didn't need algebra,
not affected you,
but yet you admit that you didn't understand the contract. So you did need some algebra, some statistics. If you'd have knew that, you might not have signed that deal. You might not have got jerked.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So like but a lot of people don't make those connections because they think math is just in a classroom, sitting in a room with just equations on the board, 3x plus 5 equals 20.
The simple stuff.
Not thinking that, like, no, it's really all around you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how you, and then when people say stuff like, I'm never going to need the quadratic formula when I'm in a grocery store, like, granted, that specific formula you might not need, but the same thought process you got to go through in a math class, in 9th grade, 10th grade, using the quadratic formula, the same thought process to solve that problem, pull them numbers out, figure out where to put them, do the addition, subtraction, multiplication. When you go to the grocery store, we're really doing algebra because it's like, okay, I got a limited amount of money. I got to buy food for this many people. The food got to last for this many weeks or this many days. And dig it, I might get to the grocery store at 4 o'clock, and then I'm like, okay, my son is at basketball practice or soccer practice or whatever. They got to get picked up at a certain time.
Subtract the
so
time.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, so do I have time to get all the stuff I need, or do I got to come back, run it back, and make another trip tomorrow? Right? That's all algebra. Like thinking about all that in your head at the same time, even though we don't write it out as an equation with variables, the variables are in your head. And if you get it right, then you end up picking your child up on time. If you get it wrong, your child sitting there stranded, like mad. Like
that's why it's so funny, right? Because like when you're watching, like say, like a TV show or a movie, And like, you know that scene where the person's just thinking and they'll have like a bunch of equations just running through
Yeah,
their head.
Just popping out.
Like, that's really what it feels like too. Like you just have a bunch of like equations going through your head.
That's crazy though. But like, you know how you say that people put that negative aspect on math. How do you? Because like in public schools, right? Certain teachers, they're boring. So how do you do your job in making sure that math is actually a fun topic to talk about or to learn?
So I'm glad you brought that up because like a lot of people ask about it being fun, and I always try to make it, instead of making it fun purposely, it can end up being fun, but I try to make it relatable.
Okay.
So relatability is the key for me. But here's the challenge with that. In order to make it relatable, you got to really go deep into it. You got to really know the math.
That's true.
And a lot of teachers, even like when I started back in 2005, like I was good at math as a student, but I didn't really know math like deep enough to really like kick it and like teach it on a deep level. Whereas like I could just meet you and just be like now, like, okay, 20 years in the game, and even like, you know, maybe 10 years ago or 8 years ago, I might meet somebody and be like, okay, well, what are you interested in? Right? Okay, now I know what you're interested in. So now I'm like, okay, this is how I'm gonna teach you algebra. I can teach you algebra using the things that you're interested in.
Right.
I can give you I can create examples of problems. So we might not even really need to use the textbook that much because the textbook might not be made for us. Gotcha. Right? Because the textbook is culturally irrelevant probably because it might be printed by some people out in Texas that you know are racist and don't even think that black people and Latino kids should be learning algebra anyway, right? Yeah. So they the ones that made the textbook, but they got the contract with the school district because it's all a big money grab and a hustle anyway, right? Mm-hmm. But if I know the math well enough, I can know you and I know what you care about and I can create the equations, right? That's going to make it relevant to you. And also
your attention span will be more.
Yeah, because you're seeing the relevance, and that's part of it. You know, there also is the issue of work ethic though, because there's a big push for like, you know, more relevant, you know, education, more fun education, but then some children still, if they don't have a work ethic, it's not even going to matter.
That's true.
Because you could have like a child that's like, listen, I got all the aspirations. I want to be a rapper. I'm like, cool. I could create a whole algebra curriculum that is strictly about rap, beats, the ratios and proportions of how many beats per minute in a song, like 16 bars, like how the cadence, all that, the trigonometry of the sound waves, if you're in the booth and whatnot with the equipment, I can create all that. And it could just be all about rap. But if you don't have a work ethic, you still not going to do it.
Yeah,
right.
So that's another conversation and a whole nother issue that's very important. Is, you know, work ethic as well. Yeah, even if you got the relatability.
That's true. Because sometimes when my son comes home from school, I like to break down whatever he's showing me. So I want to break it down into pieces, and I'm gonna try and put it back together myself. Yeah. I mean, I cheat and I use my AI phone sometimes just to get the explanation. Yeah. And then when I get the explanation, I'll scroll down to the very bottom and then go from the bottom to the top. Then I'll know, okay, that's the way you do it. And then I'll show him, look, let's try to do it this way, and maybe we can probably figure it out that way. And then he'll look at me and be like, oh, you got it. So I like to show my son that there's ways and not be stuck and stagnant on just one problem. Like,
and that's a good thing because you're modeling for him like how to be a student, and you're modeling for him perseverance, and you're modeling for him that like, yo, this is valuable. Because if you was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, I don't got time for all that.
Exactly.
And he would internalize it, be like, oh, this ain't, my dad don't even care about this.
Exactly. And so I don't like to do that. I don't want to do that because, you know, as a young boy, they get distracted easily. Yeah. You know, they see a video game toy. I'm going to go play that real quick.
Yeah, that's more easier for them too.
Yeah. So when he sees me and he sees me stuck, like, damn, but this is fucking 5th grade math. Like, why am I so stuck on it? I'll be stuck for 10 minutes just trying to figure it out.
So are you smarter than a 5th grader?
Probably no, I'm not. But when he sees me doing that, he gives me that look like, all right, cool, he's working. Yeah. I can see the thought cloud on the top of his head. You know, he's working. I'm gonna do the same thing, and then he'll chime in and be like, oh, but what if we do it this way? And I'm like, then you know what, you're right. Yeah, because he know how to do it better than I can.
And I'm also, again, I can't applaud you enough for that, man. Because like I'm also real big on like fathers, especially. You know, not to say that mothers shouldn't help, but I think in a lot of cases, mothers have been doing like the lion's share of like the academic work, coming to the report card conferences, coming to the back to school nights. Yeah. And I think the mothers should continue to do what they're doing, but the fathers just have to start doing more.
That's
a
lot
of times the fathers kind of just chill, like, because then, in a marriage or a relationship, even if you co-parenting, there's like a division of labor. Yeah. Where it's like, okay, I'm gonna let your mom handle all that. All that stuff at the school, let your mom handle it. It's like, nah, bro, you gotta do that. Cause like as a father, you know, we want to be providers and protectors,
Definitely.
right? So we gotta think about the fact that so many children, sometimes our own children, like hate math, are uncomfortable with math, and have an emotional trauma with math. So, you know, they come in the house and like they don't understand how to do the homework. So they might even be almost about to break down in tears or even break down in tears. And as a father, it's like, I want for more fathers to be able to protect their children from that and prevent that. But, you know, so they can like kind of calm them down. Like, listen, like, nah, it's cool. Relax. I got you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you how to do this. You know, it's no need for all the stress. But in order to do that, as a father, you got to know the math. So you gotta prioritize it, and you know, make it, you know, place value in it for yourself, and like, you know, and then focus in and lock in and like really try to learn it. Even if when you was a child, you might have been in that elementary school class and didn't understand, or maybe your classmates called you dumb, or the teacher made you feel dumb or whatever, and like you just been like, you know, F math like ever since then. You gotta.
I think you're old at that point, right? I think you got kids and all that. I think you got to put yourself in a different mindset to be like, nah, I gotta learn this and do something different, right?
It's a growth mindset. And like what people also got to understand is that even if you're like 40 and you thinking back to when you was like 12 in middle school and you had that negative experience in a math class, right? Whether it's pre-algebra, arithmetic, whatever. You was only 12 back then.
Right.
So you gotta give yourself some grace and be like, yo, I was only 12. So like my frontal lobe in my brain wasn't even fully developed back then.
Facts.
Now you 40, you didn't had life experiences, you didn't work full-time jobs, you didn't had children, had girlfriends, had all these types of things, went on trips, went out of town, all types of stuff. Yeah. Now that same math will probably make more sense because you have a real life perspective. So it's like, oh, so this is just, so while you trying to learn it, you're like, oh, this is just like when we was doing this. So when I go to work and like my check comes and it's like this, it's like as a 12-year-old, like you haven't lived.
You're not developed.
You haven't lived, so you don't really know. Like you know what I mean.
It's funny. I forgot who I was telling that about. Like, you know, when you're younger, it's like when you're younger, it's just like you go through one thing. When you're older, you're like, now you start putting a lot of. I think I was telling you about the life things everything in life into perspective. Like, okay, this is why okay, now I can see why, because like you said, all the experiences and all that stuff, right? So listen, so before we get into like I know how you teach the Black history with the
Systematics.
with systematics, right? Before we get into that, we're gonna hit my segment real quick, and I hope you're ready for these questions, bro, because this right here is gonna have you thinking like, damn, bro.
Out of the ordinary.
So since you
like these questions right here is really gonna have you like problem solve with these.
That's what I'm saying. So since you're a math guy, we're going.
That's what they call him. That's what they call him, Mr. Uncommon. The definition of uncommon is.
They're not math questions, but
let me interject.
Go ahead.
You said I'm a math guy. I am, but we're all math guys.
Ooh. Okay.
I'm with you on that one.
I'll drop off on that one, because I like the way you put everything into perspective through math, right? Yeah. So these questions, let's see how you gonna put it through that equation, right? Okay. All right. So the first one, since it's Pie Day. If pie was actually a flavor, what would it taste like and why?
Pie was a flavor. I'm gonna say key lime because that's my favorite flavor.
Key lime?
Yeah, key lime.
Okay, all right.
Your daughter's like,
she's one of my biggest haters too. She
Is she really?
She calls me a big back all the time.
Hey.
All the time.
Oh my God!
It'd be your own people. It'd be your own people.
I swear, my daughter be on that word, so I'm like, what are you talking about?
It's even worse when my son used to tell me, "Daddy belly," like, chill, bro.
Daddy belly, damn,
chill, bro. I don't have it anymore, but he used to be like, "Daddy belly," like, nah, chill, bro.
Yo, all right, cool. So I like that one. That was cool. That was a fast one. All right. So a supervillain erases the number 0 from existence. What are the unexpected consequences, and how do you fix it?
Erases the number 0. So we don't have unexpected consequences. I think everything goes haywire.
With the 0 missing?
Yeah, because there's no way to
tell.
It throws off all the calculations.
Yeah, because everything runs on zeros and ones.
Because the 0 is, if you think about the number line, the 0 is like the mirror, right?
It's the foundation, right?
The positives on one side and the negatives on the other side.
I'm with that.
It creates the balance. So everything's going to be imbalanced.
He's good.
It's going to be imbalanced now. You gotta have a 0.
That's a good one, because it's what you're saying. Negative and the positive. The 0 is the neutral.
The mirror.
Yeah. And to that point, so anybody watching this, like if you got like young children, when you first teaching them how to count, don't wait to like introduce negative numbers, right? Just if you're teaching them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like what we call it in algebra, the natural numbers, just give them the 0 and give them the negatives too, like -1, -2, because it's the same numbers, they're just negative.
Just do the math that way.
Yeah, just do it because just introduce them to it so they can understand the concept. Because I have a theory that people do like things that are financially, irresponsible because they may not really understand the concept of negative numbers. Like case in point, right? If you overdraw your checking account and you got a negative $300 balance, right? You don't have any money to take out, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But in your mind, if you don't understand the concept of negatives, you might think, okay, well, if I get a $200 check gets deposited in there, you thinking you're gonna go in there and withdraw that $200? Nah. If you don't understand the concept of negatives,
you're gonna have negative
yeah,
100.
you got to go against that negative 300 first. And I think that a lot of people, a lot of adults, they never really learned the concept of negativity.
That's a good simple way of even putting that out.
So as early as possible, like, introduce, like when you're teaching your children how to count, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, do -1, -2, -3, because it's about balance anyway.
Yeah, no,
right?
for sure.
Just think about it. Like, it's about balance because we want to be, balanced people, balanced human beings. So let's balance the positive and the positive with the negative.
Talking about that yesterday too.
Balance the positive with the negative.
Talk about balancing the imbalances and the balances.
Yeah, because I always tell them that the imbalance is always balanced. So if you learn the way, like you said, how the negative side, the other side of it, now you're actually balanced the right way of learning, the right proper way of learning things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
All right, cool. So I like that one. So we're gonna move on to this one now,
quick,
right?
bro.
Nah, he's good, man. This guy's good. This guy's good. Listen, so a mad scientist creates a device that lets numbers come to life. Unfortunately, fractions are now protesting for equal rights. How do you negotiate peace?
Fractions or equal
That's a
rights.
good one, son.
I mean, I think fractions should have. I would talk to the fractions and let them know, like, you should have a proportional amount of rights. You know what I'm saying? Proportional amount of rights.
Yo, but like it's like the terms that he's throwing out, like proportional. Like if you know, like it's just the terms.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, that's it.
That's funny, though.
Well,
That's
see,
funny.
but the thing is like, what we might, I might take it that way, but then I might be on the side of the fractions. I might say, well, no number really should be superior to any other number. And then I might go here. I might go to like a hystematics lesson and go to, the U.S. Constitution. What is it? Article 1, Section 2, Paragraph 1 with the 3/5 compromise.
Okay.
Right? So we start talking about the 3/5 compromise, where that was the compromise between the southern states and the northern states, where they said, like, because the southern states is like, we want more political power, so we want to include the enslaved Africans that we have on our plantations. But then the North is like, nah, how y'all gonna include them? Y'all don't even consider them human, right? Not that the white people in the North considered us human either, but they was like, nah,
it was different. In New York to the South, I said,
it's much more chattel slavery down south.
Right.
So the compromise was, all right, y'all can count black people as 3/5 of a human being. So that's where the 3/5 compromise comes from, right? So then we think about that, it's like, and you see like the inequities and whatnot. It's like, well, in the Constitution, I mean, one of the amendments was supposed to overrule that, but we look at how the world really is, and it's like we often do get treated like we're not a whole human being,
right? Facts.
Right? And that's like, but they use the numbers to represent that, where it's like, the white man is a whole human. As a black man, I'm only supposed to be 3/5 of a human.
That's crazy.
So I'm 2/5 less than this white man, according to these so-called founding fathers, you know what I'm saying, and what they got together to do, you know what I'm saying? So it's a way to take the math and like combine it with the history.
Like
had the two conversations
You're gonna be
at
a
the
good
same time.
political math guy.
Yeah.
That
was good.
That was good.
3/5. I didn't even know about that in the Constitution.
All right, so check this one, right? So if math equations had personalities, which one would be the most annoying and why?
The most annoying. Oh, this is a good question. This is a good one. The most annoying. Probably one that has no solution.
Oh, is
There
there
are equations that have no solution.
That is keep going and going and going and going and
Well,
going.
not
Well,
even
does
that.
it come to a dead stop?
No, not even that. It's like, if you have like a situation, like if I say like, okay, x plus 2 is equal to x minus 2, right? As an equation.
Okay.
That equation has no solution. Because if you think about it, that means that there's some number X, I should be able to add 2 to that number, and then I should be able to also subtract 2 from the same number and end up with the same thing. Right?
Okay.
So it's like you got like the money in your pocket. Let's say you got like $10 in your pocket right now.
Yeah.
That's X. The $10 is X.
Okay.
10 plus 2 is 12. 10 minus 2 is 8.
Correct.
It ain't no way $12 and $8 ever gonna be the same thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have equations like that. Like most equations we see in school, they have a solution. They got one solution. Sometimes you got equations that got like all real numbers. Like anything is a solution. Right? Any number is a solution, right? In the whole universe.
You can just pick the random numbers, put it on there.
And it works out like that, right? Anything will work. But then you got situations where there's no solution, right? We can't solve this, right? Based on the way it's set up.
It's that purposely.
Yeah, it's just set up like that. And it, like sometimes in nature is like that.
Right.
You know, because the math is modeling nature. It's modeling like, you know, the nature that's all around.
So sometimes there's no solution to nature.
Sometimes there's no solution. Sometimes there's just no solution.
You ended that one right there. So we're gonna end this one right here because I like that one right there.
That was good.
That concludes the that's all, folks. The Mr. Uncommon uncommon question.
I put it up.
Got stuck there for a minute there, right?
I thought I was the only one.
So yeah. So let's get into it, man. Like, so how did you, or why did you put that into doing the math, putting it together with math?
Black history?
Pick Black history, right?
To be honest, probably the best way to describe why is because I got to a point in my career where I started doing a lot of reading, like, you know, studying African American history and African history. And I just was doing a lot of reading. And I realized that my students, in addition to having certain deficiencies in math, they also had deficiencies in history.
Okay.
So I was like, well, they here, they listening. You know what I'm saying? I got this audience. So let me figure out a way to like incorporate both. These are things that they need to know about. Because it's like I need to know about it. They need to know about it too. Yeah. Right? And some days I would come into work and I'd be like, okay, I'm teaching a geometry class first period. I'm teaching a pre-calculus class like fourth period. And I got my curriculum, I got my lesson plan and everything, but I might have just been reading, the night before I might have been reading Assata Shakur's autobiography.
Okay.
And I'm like, I really want to talk about what I read.
Yeah.
Right? I might not want to talk about what's on my lesson plan for the geometry class or for the pre-calculus class or whatever. So I would try to figure out ways to like incorporate both. Right. And like, you know, I might make up test questions or even, you know, do now questions where like, you know, little word problems like about the people that I was studying. Okay. As a way to like at least name drop. Cause like that's one thing I grew up on hip hop. Like a lot of us did, right? And one of the things I took away from growing up on hip hop is the name dropping. Like there's so many things I learned about because a rapper would just name drop. Whether it was like a brand, a certain type of car, like a luxury brand, or like, you know, some mobster from one of the gangster movies, you know what I mean? Somebody like that. Like I would just learn about stuff just from name dropping. So then I said like I could do the same thing with historical figures. Right. Just name drop. Right. So even if I don't give like a whole expansive explanation of like, you know, who Marcus Garvey was or who Arturo Schomburg was, or, you know, Assata Shakur, Ida B. Wells, all these people, at least I drop the name and might say a small fact about them. Then it's like, okay, you heard of them at least.
You had to drop a little seed
on
them.
Yeah.
That's good because when they get home now, I could just look it up.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things I do, and it's like, you know, I created Hystematics, which is like a framework, right, where it's got 5 elements, right, where I do it in different ways. One is the element one is numerical and verbal triggers. Okay. Right, where I might create a math problem, especially if I'm dealing with arithmetic, right, with the younger people. I might say, for example, this year, 2025, is the 100th anniversary of Malcolm X's birth. Right? Okay. So he was born in 1925. So I might create a math problem where I know the answer is going to be 1,925. Like I do that on purpose.
So you make the equation.
Yeah, set the equation up, create it, and then I'm being intentional. And I'm like, the purpose is by the time we get the answer, I go through all the steps, show them how to like regroup and like explain the concept of addition. That's another thing too, because a lot of us, we learn just carry the one. But we don't know what that really means. We don't understand the issues with place value and whatnot, and that, again, so a lot of the so-called new math is meant to show the concept behind that and, like, why are you carrying the one? And that's going to help you when you get to algebra later on.
Why do you carry the one? You know what's funny? And I'm only asking this, right, because it's crazy you come up with that. My daughter's showing me, like, a math thing, right? So I'm telling her, that's how I got to, like, you know, when there's the number doesn't
fit.
Doesn't fit.
It's more than 10.
It's right. You add the one, pick up the one to make it a whole.
Yeah.
Right, and then you subtract that to the bottom number, right? So why do you carry the one?
So if we're doing like an addition problem and we end up carrying a 1, it's because it's like a cash register.
Well, would you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Would you carry it more on subtraction?
Well, subtraction we regroup, which is like what we know is borrowing.
That's what I'm talking about more.
So you
That's more. I'm talking about that. Yeah.
All right, well, let's talk. We can talk about both.
Both talk about both. Yeah. Because that's what my daughter was trying. I was trying to teach her with the whole with the borrowing. Because on the negative.
And I love talking about this because this is a very important concept. Because again, I was really good in math when elementary school, but I didn't know why we carried the 1. Right. I didn't know what borrowing really was for. I just knew how to do it. Like doing math was like playing video games on Genesis.
Right.
Like back in the day.
I
just wanted to like beat the level. You remember like when Sonic, like you beat Robotnik, you learn like, okay, if I go in the corner, the little pendulum thing, it's not gonna hit me. Yeah. So all I got to do is wait till it swing, boom, jump, hit him, boom, just keep doing it. And then I beat the level. I go to the next level. Why does it work? I have no idea why it works.
I just
know I beat the level. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's true though. It's true.
So the math problems are the same way, but like so with addition. When you have to carry the 1 with addition, it's almost like think of a math problem as like a cash register, right? You got your ones in this little pile, right? Then you got your $5 bills. Well, we don't got $5 bills because we're using a base 10 system, right? So imagine we only had ones, tens, and hundreds. And if there was a $1,000 bill, we'd have thousands, right? So if you are adding the numbers in the ones place, you can't have more than 9 in there, right?
Yeah.
So let's say in the ones place you got a 7 and an 8. So 7 plus 8 is 15. That's too much, right?
Okay, right.
So we break it up. It's like the 5 can stay, but that 10, they graduated. They too old for that. They too old for that for the ones place. They got to go to the tens place because they 10s. You know what I'm saying?
Just push the leg towards you, like over here. The leg. There you go. There you go.
So you can still hear me?
Yeah. Move the mic itself.
Mic itself?
This way. That way.
That way?
No. Like my fault. Yeah, you're right there.
Okay,
Yeah,
like
cool.
that. Okay. All right, I got it. Okay, so we good?
Yeah, we go.
Right. So like the 10 like graduates and goes to the tens place.
Okay. Right.
So then now if you're in the tens place, and so when we carry the 1, we're carrying 1 group of tens.
So we'll do 8, 7. 8 plus 7
is 15.
It's 15.
But only the ones are gonna stay. The 5 ones are gonna stay in that
so
column.
The 5 stays.
But then that extra 10,
that 10,
that is 1 group of 10. So the 1 group of 10 goes to the tens column. But then in the tens column, let's say you had 5 and 8. Right, so you got 5 tens and 8 tens. And that's another thing too. Every time, so a lot of people claim to be bad at math, right? Poor at math. But one of the things we don't realize is somehow like the proficiency that we have, just because we naturally just do stuff mathematical and don't even think about it. Every time you read a number or interpret a number, you're doing multiplication. Okay. Like think about the number like 387.
Right.
In order for you to know what that means, you're actually doing 3 times 100. That's 300. 8 times 10, that's 80. 7 times 1 is 7. In order for you to actually interpret what a number means, you got to know the place value.
Hold on, bro. Yo.
But you do it without thinking about it. You do it naturally.
The way he just broke it down, though, with the 100, 10s, and 1s, like, I'm looking at it like, what?
Yeah, it's all about place value.
You automatically on cruise control doing that.
Right, it's all about place value.
That's crazy.
In order to know the value of a number, you gotta know place value, and the place value determines like, okay, so because that 3 means you got 3 hundreds.
Right.
The 8 being in the tens place means you got 8 tens. The 7 being in the ones place means you got 7 ones. So you're automatically doing, in order to interpret and understand what 387 really means, that means you're doing the multiplication without even thinking about it. So the same thing, so when we add, we start in the ones place, then we go to the tens place, and that's how many tens we got. So like, I don't remember what the example I gave was, maybe 5 and 8. Yeah, so we got 1 10, we got 5 tens, and we got 8 tens. So altogether, that's 1 plus 5 is 6, 6 plus 8 is 14. We got 14 tens. But we can't have more than 9 in the tens, please. So we got 14 tens. So 10 of them, they graduate. They go to the 100, because how much money is $10 bills? $100. So you take them 10 tens, that's 100. That's 100.
Okay, I got you.
So that's why
you put it as a whole.
Yeah,
Make
you
it as
put
a
them
whole. I
together
got
as
you.
100.
Yeah, I got
It's
you.
almost like getting change.
Yeah.
It's like getting change, right? So you take the 1, you put it in the 100, that one in the hundreds place.
Yeah.
And what was it? 14. It was 14.
14.
14.
14.
Yeah. So the 4 10s can stay, right? Because you got 14 10s.
Yeah.
So you got the 4 10s can stay. They cool.
They cool. Yeah.
But the 10 10s, nah, they
When it's 100.
graduate. They gotta step up. Like think back. I keep thinking about this example. Like back in the day, I used to watch the Transformers.
Oh,
And the Transformers, the movie, the original Transformers movie, the animated one. Remember from like 83 or 84 or whatever. When like Optimus Prime got killed, and you know Hot Rod was supposed to step up. And first he didn't want to step up. He didn't want to become the leader. He didn't want to become the leader. It's like you gotta step up.
Yeah, somebody.
When it's time, when it's your time, you gotta step up. So that's what he ended up doing, and becoming Rodimus Prime. Right. So it's almost like with the numbers. We got 14 10s. 10 of y'all are 100 now. Y'all not 10s no more.
Y'all graduated.
Y'all graduated.
Y'all moved up rank.
Y'all moved up rank. You moved up rank. So now you got to go with the hundreds now. Right?
like that.
So when we carry the 1, we're carrying one group of 10s or one group of hundreds or one group of thousands.
Yeah.
One group of 10,000s.
So that's the group. So that's the grouping then, right? Like
it's the group, yeah.
So now the borrowing will be
Borrowing with subtraction.
the opposite side of it.
And this is even a little more complicated, but it's not difficult to understand. So it's kind of like you taking money from your left pocket and putting it in your right pocket. So you're not really borrowing, you know what I'm saying? Unless you could be. Think about like if you take money from you're a little short on your bills this month, but you're responsible and you save money.
Yeah.
So you got money stacked in your savings account. So you take a little money out of your savings account, put it in your checking account to cover a couple of bills. That's kind of what it is, right?
Okay, yeah.
When we do this, and this is the thing too, we got to understand, there's many ways to do subtraction, right? A lot of teachers and a lot of schools back in the day, even today, sometimes they push this whole narrative where this is only one way to do the problem, only one way to get the answer. Learn this one way. If you don't do it this way, you're wrong, right? Yeah. There's so many ways to find an answer. As long as they follow mathematical rules, it's cool, right? There's so many ways, right? The standard algorithm is the method that we deal with when we deal with borrowing or regrouping. That's what we call the standard algorithm, right? It's like the most popular, I guess, in Western society. And in that method, we got to be careful when we explain this too, because a lot of teachers will say, if you got like a 3 on, like in the ones place, if you got a 3 on top in the top number and a 5 on the bottom number, they'll say, which they should never say, but they'll say something like, you can't do that. You should never say that, because then children will think, oh, I can't subtract a bigger number from a smaller number? Damn, I can't do that? You can do that.
Yeah.
But just using this particular method, you can't do it. Just like.
So what method can you use for 3 and 5?
I mean, so if you're using a method, you're using a method where you're dealing with negative numbers, then it's cool. But with the standard algorithm, we don't deal with negative numbers.
So y'all won't do, like for example, lower number, higher number.
Well, you'd have to. That's where the borrowing comes into play.
But where do you borrow from?
You borrow from the next place over. So it's like, okay, so like if you go to the tens place, right, to get some money, you get some money from the tens place. So the 3 is too small, right? Because you want to end up with a positive number. And when we do math problems, we always want to think about what's my end goal. My goal is to end up with I need a positive number to do this method, right? But if I do 3 minus 5, I'm gonna end up with -2.
Correct.
I don't want no negatives. It's kind of like we want good vibes only,
right?
Positive vibes only, right? When we use this method.
Right.
There are other methods where we can get negatives, but not this method, right? It's like if
you follow the regular whatever methods, you're gonna get negative,
right? And we don't want that. We don't want that. So that's why we're gonna borrow from the next column. We're gonna take 10 from the tens place, right? We're gonna just borrow 10 from over there and put it with the 3.
But if there's no money over there on the 10th side,
that's when it gets complicated.
So
then you jump.
Then you got to go to the hundreds place.
You jump.
But it's only a single. I'm trying to. It's only a single number though, right? 3 and 5. So where do you borrow from?
Well, so in the top number, in the top number, the 3's in the ones place. In this example, this made up example, and then we're imagining that based on what the problem would be. Let's say there was a 2 in the tens place, right? So it was like let's say it's 323 minus 455. No, that wouldn't. We don't want that. Minus 155. Right. So it's a 5.
3 and 5.
Well, I'm messing up.
But that's when you're dealing with multiple numbers.
Yeah.
But can you do that on a single number itself? That's what I'm trying to say. 3 and 5. Let's stay on 3 and 5. 3 and 5 are singular numbers, right? that
Well,
equation
no,
will not be it.
No.
Yeah, because it's nothing to borrow from.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to. All right,
Yeah.
okay. there you
So
go.
then we got it. We
can't throw that equation out there.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of
All
like
right, gotcha.
if you got a 3-digit number, if you're doing
That's
a 3-digit
different,
number
right.
minus another 3-digit number,
Yeah.
then yeah,
That I know how to borrow from,
Then
for
we
sure,
can
yeah,
borrow.
yeah.
Yeah, we can borrow.
That's
Borrow
like-
that
Rob,
situation.
one of the
Okay, it got me thinking. I'm like, yo, where do you borrow?
Yeah.
Single numbers, you can't borrow from nothing.
You gotta
right?
have
So
something to borrow
You gotta
from.
have something to borrow. All right, I got you. Yeah.
Or rob.
That was my whole
Either
thing.
or, borrow or rob.
Well, you can't rob, bro.
You can rob. You can rob from the tens place and be like, yo, let me get some tens, bro. You know, real quick.
Yo, so all right. So let's talk about the book, man. Like, the book, man. What made you go into doing the book and all that? I know you was teaching YouTubes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what made the book?
So the book came out in 2023, right? And volume 2. This is volume 1. How to use all this math. Volume 1. How to use all this math. Volume 2 should drop this year.
Okay.
I haven't set a date. I haven't set a release date yet, but the book is just a couple of reasons I came up with the book is because me wanting to provide resources to the community,
Right.
and help parents, and not just parents, grandparents, uncles, aunties, whoever, be able to like take more ownership and become more of a primary educator of the children and prepare them for math class. Because a lot of times we've been conditioned to just send children to school and let the school teach them all the math and be fully responsible for teaching them all the math. Right. That doesn't work.
That is true.
Like not for our benefit. You know, it might work for having children be deficient, so that way they won't be able to compete, you know, with certain arenas and with certain other people, right? It might work for that, but if we want our children to be proficient and really learn, we gotta prepare them. We gotta give them some foundation, right? And so that when they go to math class, like my goal is for math class should be like recess.
Yeah, I like these categories you put in there.
Yeah.
Like gas
Yeah,
and
just-
seeds,
and I
like
came
credit
up with
card
just-
payments. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fire, bro.
Now, I wanted to ask
Should
you
we
too,
fly
right?
or drive? Like that's
Yeah.
dope.
I wanted to ask you too, right? Like, what inspired you to like start teaching math and like phone batteries? Because I seen you also do that. And like now that I'm older, I see like percentages is very, very important now,
Very.
like, especially in the
Very.
real world. Like, you know,
Yeah.
when you're dealing with like interest rates,
Yeah.
or like even like what we was talking about, like the 360 deals, like all that is just percentages. So
All of
like,
it.
what inspired you to do that?
What inspired me? So just understanding the importance of it, just understanding that like math is really a language. It really is a language. Like we talked about the 360 deals and the contracts. Like that's a language. Like math is a language. It's, you know, you got to understand the language of mathematics, and within the language of mathematics, you got like, you know, different dialects, and one of the dialects is fractions. Fractions is a dialect within the language of math. Percentages is a dialect within the language of math.
That's true.
You got to understand these languages, and that's why people don't. If you don't understand the language, you won't be able to navigate and have these conversations. If somebody starts talking percentages, like you go to the store, if you don't understand percentages, and I think about this all the time too. Like a lot of people don't understand
lost.
percentages, but in the news media they talk about percentages all the time.
Every
So I'll be
time.
like, if you don't understand percentages, how do you even know what they just said? You know, which takes me also to the hystematics, because in a math class, if you don't understand percentages, you can't really hide. Like your teacher, you're gonna be exposed.
Yeah,
Your teacher
right.
will know.
Yeah.
But then the bell could ring, next period, okay, we in social studies now, or we in US history now. Oh, read this paragraph.
Yeah.
First sentence in the paragraph. 38% of the United States, you know, in the year 1792, 38% of the United States was agrarian or whatever, right? I'm just making that up. I don't know if that's true. But you could read it,
Yeah.
and you understand numbers, you understand the percent symbol, you can say it out loud, right? Your teacher might not know that you have no idea what you just read,
Pretty much.
because you don't know what 38% even means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like 38% of what?
Of what? Right.
Yeah,
Right.
like, you don't know- but if you don't know percentages, like then you won't be able to, you know, have these conversations. So doing like when you mentioned like the phone battery problem, that's an example of just meeting people where they are. It's like everybody got a cell phone. Kids play, you know, games on cell phones. We give our children our cell phones so they can play games and whatnot.
Right.
It's like, all right, we already using a cell phone. You see up in the upper right corner, you see the battery life left. That's percentage, right? So that's percentage. So it's a way to just like meet somebody where they at. And like that's kind of what the book gets into also, because I'm taking like everyday examples. Like, so it's like,
It
you
actually is though. Looking at all
Yeah.
these the categories, I'm like
right now,
like, okay, wait, hold on, what?
so
Like,
this is meant to be like a textbook, but it's using things that you're already doing,
Yeah.
right? That you might not have thought of. Like for example, like this bottle of water, right? This is like 500 milliliters and 16.9 ounces, right? I just know that because I look at the labels.
that's a fact.
Right?
That's a
But like, so every time you grab, like your child come downstairs into the kitchen to get a bottle of water, you can create a mathematical practice exercise by that, because that's a unit conversion. You going from the Brit ounces That's the British system, just like pounds.
Right.
Metric system is milliliters.
Right.
So they already converted on the label. They can tell you, okay, 500 milliliters is 16.9 ounces.
Yeah.
Then you can ask your child, like, okay, well, if you know that, tell me how many ounces is 1,000 milliliters. Had them do the math.
They got a reference now.
You got a reference, and they could just practice it. And then you can say, well, tell me how many ounces or how many milliliters is 4 ounces. How many milliliters will 4 ounces be?
Right.
And it's like a simple little algebraic equation. That's one of the chapters in the book. It's a simple little algebraic equation that you just do, right? And the beauty of it is practice. It's like with sports. With sports, you practice. You get your reps in, right?
Repetition, yep.
You become good at it, right? So imagine every time your child comes into the kitchen and they grab a bottle of water. Like my daughter, right? I get on her nerves because every time we get in the car, I got another chapter in there about converting the temperature from Fahrenheit to Celsius or Celsius to Fahrenheit.
I still don't know that fucking thing. I swear to God, nah, bro. I think it's like 10 less. Is it 10 less on bugging?
No, not 10 less. What you do, if you're going from Celsius to Fahrenheit, you take the Celsius temperature and you double it. Well, approximately. Really supposed to multiply by 9/5, which is actually 1.8. But 1.8 is close to 2. Correct. It's like $1.80 is almost $2,
round it
right?
off?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I just, keep it simple. Just multiply by 2 or double it, and then add 32 to it. So that's how you convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit. And then to go back the other direction, you take the Fahrenheit temperature, because Celsius is always going to be less than Fahrenheit, no matter what. Always, right? Because
sure.
just think about like boiling point. Boiling point in Fahrenheit is 212. Boiling point in Celsius is 100.
Yeah.
That's why the metric system, like, in many ways, it makes more sense because the numbers are nice and neat. Like, in Celsius, freezing point is 0, boiling point is 100. You know what I'm saying? Like, as opposed to Fahrenheit, boiling point is 212, freezing point is 32 degrees.
Yeah, I think that
breaks the barriers.
Yeah,
it's just,
I think
it's
that's why
nice
a lot
and
of
neat.
people use like Celsius. I've noticed
Most
more
countries,
people,
like only like the United States, I think Liberia, like 2 other countries in the whole world, like don't use the metric system.
Yeah.
Everybody uses the metric system, but
Why is that though? Like, do you know?
Because
I don't
I
know.
mean, probably because it's more simpler. Like
easier.
the numbers are more.
Yeah, why break the chain and go inside the numbers when you could just keep it simple? And that's when you go into decimals and stuff like that, like 3.5, like 55.5 and shit like that. So
because we're on a base 10 system anyway, So like what I do with her, like I have her, like just randomly ask her, like Asada, tell me the temperature in Fahrenheit. But it's like, but she knows how to do it, right? Because it's like, it's that repetition.
Yeah.
And what it does is it develops your like, what is it? What do we call it? Educators call it automaticity. Automaticity. When you can just automatically just do math, right? Just easily, without even thinking about it. Let me also say this too.
I would
before
love
I
to
forget,
get on that space like that.
make sure your children, and anybody watching this, make sure your children have their multiplication facts memorized, at least up to 12 times 12. I will shout that from the rooftops. I will stand on that. They need to know, because that is like so foundational. Yes. Like a lot of children, that when you end up in high school and like you struggling solving equations and whatnot, a lot of it is like people think, oh, algebra must be hard, statistics must be hard, pre-calcs. A lot of times it's like not knowing your multiplication facts.
That's a fact.
Because you end up like trying to do the problem and you got to do 7 times 8, and you sitting there thinking about 7 times 8. Or like, okay, you get a calculator. Okay, calculator do 7 times 8. It'll tell you 56. But then it's like, damn, like you shouldn't need a calculator for 7 times 8.
Off the top, it should
be. Yeah, you should know it off the top. You should just recognize that. Like whenever you hear somebody, like just as easy as like
2 + 2,
you recognize like one of your siblings. You see your mom. Oh, that's my brother down the street. My sister down the street. Yeah. On sight, I just know them, or I hear their voice. I just know them.
Or you know names automatically.
Yeah, or you just like you as soon as you see somebody write 7 times 8 somewhere, you just automatically think 56. As soon as you hear somebody say 7 times 8, you should be able to say 56. But you got to practice that like at a young age. True. And you got to like reinforce it. And you got to like, do math problems that involve that. So they got to know their because knowing the multiplication facts, then you end up knowing your division facts. Yeah, because division is just the opposite. Because if I know 8 times 4 is 32, I also automatically know 32 divided by 4 is 8. Right?
So you saying that, right? So when is there a term, right? Because say like when you just asked me right now, what was 7 times 8, right? Is there a term for like counting backwards? Like say you asked me that, right? I'll start from 7 times 10 and then I'll count my way down.
Nah, that's crazy.
Yeah, like because it's closer to 10 than rather than me counting from 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. I could just do 7 times 10 is easier because it's a 0. So it's 70. And then I'll count backwards. 7 times 9.
Damn, that's extra.
So
Nah,
I would
I
not.
can see what he's saying,
but
but
I would-
it is
me
extra.
too,
though. I can
but
see what
it's
he's
No,
saying.
because
Yeah.
because the 0, like, it's easier, right? Like,
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I wouldn't discourage that. I wouldn't have done it that way.
Yeah.
But again, that's the beauty of math to me.
Right.
You can create
Is
different
that
things.
there's different ways. Like and again, as teachers, see a lot of teachers, right? We get so caught up in this idea that like I got to be the smartest one in the room,
Right.
and these kids don't know nothing, and my job is to pour knowledge into them.
Yeah.
Education should be bi-directional. It's like, yeah, I can teach you a lot, I push you into a lot, but it's been so many times in my career where students have taught me stuff, right? So like if you was one of my students back in the day, and you said, instead of doing just knowing what 7 times 8 is, and you said, well, I know what 7 times 10 is, I'd have been like, oh shit. Damn, I even thought about doing it like that. That's called, you asked for a term for that.
Yeah.
That's called like mathematical flexibility. Knowing how to figure things out using different methods. That's something like the so-called new math that people don't like, right?
Yeah.
But it's helpful though. It's helpful to be flexible because like, and also let me say this too about the so-called new math. A lot of the things that are taught in the absence of having memorized certain things, right? So once you memorize 7 times 8 is 56, then you don't need to do 7 times 10 and then count backwards by sevens.
That's a fact.
Right? You don't need to. But if in the absence of having it memorized, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So that's a good strategy. So if you know 7 times 10, that's 70, right?
Yeah.
And then also multiplying by numbers and ending 0, that's easier too anyway.
Yeah.
Because you could pretend the 0 is not there and just act like you're just doing 7 times the number in the tens place.
Right.
Because it's just 7 times 1, which is 7. And just attach to 0. Don't say add though. A lot of teachers make that mistake. They say add 0 because it makes sense. It makes sense. We say it's a
just add a
habit.
0,
We say add a 0.
Yeah.
But if you say add a 0 to a
Not
child,
in the math terms.
because if you say because you might mess a child up. Because if you say add a 0, they might take it literally,
Right.
and be like, oh, 7 times 1 is 7. Add a 0. 7 plus 0 is 7. So therefore, 7 times 10 is 7.
And they're gonna
No, even if you're teaching a whole classroom full of children, 25 kids in a room, 24 of them knew what you meant. The one child didn't know what you meant, but you could have avoided that by just saying attach.
That's
Just
true.
say attach.
The wording too is big, man. Like what people take literal or not. Like it is true what you're saying. Like what I mean. So I guess I definitely got to be clear on
Comprehension is
that.
key,
Yeah,
especially
for
when it
sure.
comes down to math.
Yeah, matter of fact, my homegirl who I do some work with, a sister down in North Carolina named Lanisha Boone. She has a company called Bud and Bear Fruit. She just had a podcast episode. She has a podcast called PD for the Soul. She just had an episode about specifically that mathematical terminology. Because another reason that children get jammed up in math classes is because you go to one teacher and they use this terminology to describe something. Then they go to another teacher, they use different terminology, but not that, there isn't synonymous terminology, but sometimes the terminology just be wrong, right?
Yeah.
And some stuff we say when we're describing things because that's how we learned it.
That's the thing right there.
And we never knew, like, damn, like when I think about it, this actually is incorrect. So I actually shouldn't explain it this way.
Right.
That causes a lot of confusion, right? In children. And then like sometimes like as children, right, children internalize and think, well, there's something wrong with me. And then children come home with the homework problem. If you're fortunate enough to go to a school where they give homework, because a lot of schools don't even give homework no more.
That's crazy.
Right?
That's wild.
So then the parent is sitting there trying to do the homework with the child and not understanding, not realizing like, oh, no, the teacher messed up. Right?
I've told I swear to my kids, I told that to my daughter the other days. I was like, wait, this is not even it. I said, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what she taught you there, but this ain't it. And I was so sure about what I was taught.
Right.
Because I'm not going to know everything, but that right there, I'm like, and it's funny you say that right there, because I told, nah.
They mess up.
They
mess
nah,
up.
yeah,
Like,
that's not it.
We mess up, man. Like sometimes like we might be doing our lesson plan, our practice problems. It might be 2:00 in the morning. We might have just came from the bar or something. You know what I'm saying? Like we got to do this lesson. Let me do this lesson real quick. You might still be drunk or something.
All right,
It happens.
I'll chuck it up to that then.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna
Like,
chuck it up to that then because
know
I was
me.
like, what? I'm like, hold up. You a teacher? Like, no. This is not it. Like, I was so sure. I would have been on the phone with the teacher. Like, no, this is not.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
so
right.
like it's so funny too, right? Because you have like these math equations go up on social media, and it'll be a long math equation, right? And PEMDAS, right?
Which I hate. We're gonna talk about that in a second.
That's why I want
Go
to get
ahead.
into it, the PEMDAS, right? Because it will be a long equation, then people will solve it doing PEMDAS. But then you also have other people doing different methods. That's not PEMDAS. So it's like, what's the whole deal with that?
All right.
Okay, so
Wait,
real quick.
Before we
no,
go
yeah.
into that PEMDAS.
Let's keep the PEMDAS going.
Yeah, let's go into my segment real
quick. Let's keep that in the thought.
Yeah.
Let's run it back on that.
Yeah, we're gonna run it back on that.
This is Jconfident's pick up thoughts. You know what I just thought about? They say numbers never lie, but some of them tell some powerful truths. Whether you're dodging decimals or battling fractions, one thing's clear: with the right mindset, even the toughest problems start adding up. So remember, life's just like math. Show your work, solve for X, and never be afraid to carry yourself with confidence and grace. Mr. Parker, if math had a life motto, what would it be?
Math had a life motto. Y'all are asking me some very good questions.
Thank you, sir.
Math had a life motto.
You got freestyle. I can see the math problems in your head right now.
Actually, like this. like Rain Man, like Rain Man.
Math had a life motto. Math had a life motto. You got a second question?
No.
No second. That's the only question. I was
the
going to say,
only
let's go
question.
to the second question and come back to it.
This is the only question.
A life motto.
Could be something simple. This is the first time I got somebody.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Got me.
You know what? No, I got one for you. Don't be afraid to fail.
Oh.
Don't be afraid to fail. I say that because,
Okay.
and this is something that I didn't understand. So as a student, I was very much, the way I was taught math is like, it's all about getting the right answer. All about getting the right answer. So, you know, you never wanted to get the wrong answer. And I was telling my daughter about this earlier today, and I told my children, it's like, as a parent even, my focus, when I was a younger parent, my focus was very much like, you know, don't make mistakes, right? Especially, and also like, you know, there's a racial dynamic, there's a socioeconomic, a political dynamic. Like, as black people, like, we don't necessarily get 3 strikes. You know, we don't always get opportunities to like make mistakes and bounce back from it. Right. But with math, you need to make mistakes to learn, right? In order to learn better. It's almost like before the days of GPS, right? Remember back then, right? Where somebody would give you directions to their house.
Yeah.
I was one of the people.
MapQuest.
I would usually always get lost the first time I go to somebody's house.
That's a fact.
But every time after that, I would be so proficient at getting to their house because I would always remember what not to do and where not to go.
Okay.
So with math, we can do a similar thing, right? But we got to embrace the failure and use that as a way to learn, like a lesson, like a teachable moment. Because if we don't do that, what ends up happening is, and a lot of children do this all the time, they don't like the feeling of being like reprimanded for making a mistake or getting a wrong answer. So the best way to avoid it is don't even shoot your shot. If I don't even try, then I can't get it wrong. I can't get it wrong.
Right.
But if you don't try, you can't learn.
How would you know?
Yeah, how would you know?
Closed mouths don't get fed, man. Like,
so I would say the life motto is like, you know, embrace the failure.
That's
because math is really it's a lot like in science, right? The person that comes up with the cure for some disease, they give them the award or whatnot, name it after them. We only talk about the experiment that they got correct.
not
When
the ones
they combine the chemicals correctly.
And they went through a lot of them.
Yeah, they don't talk about the 100,000 trials where they got it wrong.
Yep.
Nobody talks about that.
That's a fact.
Right? Even when we watch sports highlights, you never see Jordan miss on a sports highlight.
Yeah.
You never see that. You never see LeBron miss. Never see, like, rest in peace to Kobe. We never see Kobe miss. We only see the shots that they make.
Right.
But with science is like, yo, like, you gotta go through those like trials where you don't get it in order to get to the one where you do find a cure.
Right.
So a lot of times with math too, it should be treated the same way.
Yeah,
You
I
gotta
see
get it
what you mean.
wrong.
Yeah.
You gotta do the problems and get them wrong.
You got to get it wrong to get it right.
Yeah, you got to.
I like that, man. But at the end of the day, math, just like life, is all about finding balance, solving problems, and learning from every misstep. Whether you're counting wins or calculating lessons, just remember, the formula for success is staying confident, staying curious, and always showing your work. That's the kind of math that really adds up. Let's go. That's my conclusion, y'all. Josh,
Yeah. Go back to PEMDAS real
Yeah, so
quick.
PEMDAS, because that right there, I be seeing a whole lot of controversy with PEMDAS, and that was the way that we was taught up in schools too. So
But how did you learn it though? Like, what did they tell you in school? I was
it
taught
was
that PEMDAS.
parentheses, right?
Yeah.
Multiplication.
Exponents
no,
first, right?
Yeah,
Exponents.
explanation. Yeah.
Explain.
Then there was multiplication, then division, and then added addition and subtraction.
So they told me, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Yeah, you can say that too. Yeah.
That helps you remember.
That's what made me
it.
I remember the
remember
thing.
it.
Yeah. But you got to remember what the whole equation is behind it.
But I always thought that PEMDAS was like the key to all problems.
So they said.
So they said.
So PEMDAS so we call that a mnemonic device, right? Just the letters that help you to memorize like a larger process. The problem with PEMDAS is, well, in PEMDAS, the M comes before the D, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Every time you say PEMDAS, the M is before the D.
Mm-hmm.
So what that leads people to believe is that in any problem, you should always multiply before you divide.
Okay.
That's when people are arguing on social media, that's usually 90% of the time, that's the issue right there. Because what a mnemonic device is meant to do is meant to remind us of or jog our memory of a longer, more robust, expansive explanation, right? Mm-hmm. Because what the order of, and this is why when I said I don't like PEMDAS is because a lot of people and a lot of teachers teach PEMDAS without teaching the order of operations.
Facts.
Because you got the order of operations. There's an order of operations that we use in mathematics. PEMDAS is supposed to be a way to remember what the order of operations is.
Okay.
But PEMDAS is not exactly the order of operations.
So what is the order of operations?
So the order of operations is like, okay, we simplify everything that might be inside parentheses, but not only parentheses, it could be inside of another what we call grouping symbol,
Right,
like brackets, braces, right? Yeah. Then we deal with the exponents. Then we say you do multiplication or division. The operative word is or division based on what you see first as you read the problem from left to right.
Okay.
PEMDAS doesn't inform you of all that. But if you learn that part, what I just said, PEMDAS should remind you of that. But what I realized, a lot of people never learned the longer explanation of the order of operations. They only learn PEMDAS. So if you only learn PEMDAS, it actually is logical that you would think, well, shit, the M is always before the D, so I should always multiply before I divide. Right? So if you learned it that way.
So it's M-DAS.
It should be like, what I say is PEM or DAS.
PEM or DAS.
PEM or DAS. That's what I say sometimes. I'm like, but that's the key right there. And then even with the parentheses, context is key. So remember I said earlier, math is a language.
Yeah.
So you know how even in the English language, you could say the same thing and it might mean something different in a different context. Like think about the phrase "you good." How many ways can we define "you good"?
A lot.
Depending on the situation, right? You good could mean I'm concerned about you. You look like sick. You all right? You need something. You good? We outside? Like you looking at me some kind of way? Like
good?
Like,
now you're in line.
But it's the same exact phrase though, right?
Yeah.
But the context is key. When we say parentheses in PEMDAS, we're talking about it at parentheses used as a grouping symbol. Not when we use parentheses to show multiplication. Because you can also use parentheses to show multiplication.
Yes, you can.
If you got a number
outside of
and then right next to some parentheses, that means multiplication.
Facts.
What a lot of people also do when they be arguing on social media is they say, "Oh, well, I see parentheses. That means you got to do that first." Nah, chill, bro. That's not what we mean. That's not what we mean. We mean when the parentheses are used as a grouping symbol. If you got a number by itself inside parentheses, that's not a group. It's just by itself. That's just one number. It ain't no group. It ain't like the locks. The locks is three people, right? It ain't a solo artist, right? Right. So again, context is key. So again, but it goes back to like math being a language, though.
So how will you use 2 parentheses? I don't know, 3 times whatever 8 parentheses.
Multiply 2.
You gotta do multiply the 2 with the first number, or do you do the parentheses first?
So
I know you just said that right now, but
what's inside the parentheses in your problem?
I don't know, 3 times 8.
So you would do 3 times 8 first,
and then do the 2, and then
we do the 2.
Okay, so then all right, I got you.
Okay, so parentheses come.
That's what I'm asking.
If we want to follow order of operations, that's what we want to do. However, in that particular problem that you brought up, because it's all multiplication, it's not going to make a difference though, because you'll still get the same answer if you just decided to do 2 times 3 times 8. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 8 is 48, right? You're still going to end up with 48 because the 3 times 8 is 24, and then 2 times 24 is still 48. In that particular problem, it's not going to matter.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But if you got a problem where you're doing addition inside the parentheses, then
okay. So let's do that. Let's do that. 2 parentheses 3 plus 8.
3 plus 8. Okay, so that's gonna be. Well, that would be. Well, I guess. Well, if you distribute. See, again, now we get into the distributed property. If you get into distributed property, you still get the same thing, right? But if you want to just follow order of operations, then you're going to do 3 plus 8, you're going to get 11, and then you're going to do the 2 times the 11, right? It's all about order of operations. And I like order of operations because
it's easy.
It's easy, and it's also a way to show how math principles can model, just like you asked me, like what would math's life model be, right? There's so many things we do in math. When you really get into the math, where they model like principles and like behavior and protocols for like how we exist. Because think about like
everything has a law.
In life, we gotta have an order of operations. A lot of times when we get jammed up as men, you know, even women, even teenagers, adolescents, it's because you don't know the proper order of operations and you're not following the order of operations. Like there should be an order of operations to everything.
Yeah.
Once you learn the order of operations, you gotta follow order. But a lot of times, like we get, you know, because of a lack of discipline, like, I feel like I want to go over here, go do this. Like, you got to chill, bro. Yep. That's not the order of operations. You got to follow order of operations. You're going to create problems for yourself, right? And it ends up being, it's like, but it might feel right at the time to just deviate from the order of operations of your life. But then it's like, but then you end up paying the consequences later and you be mad, right?
It's like the chain of command. You don't go to your supervisor, you go to the one on top. You're going to get flack for it from everybody else, right? You didn't follow the chain. Like.
But even in life, the man upstairs is the teacher of math. That man's going to tell you, like, no, that's not the right way, bro. You going too far. Go back to the order of operations, bro. Start with the parentheses. And then follow through the right way. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, that's definitely a fact.
That's a dope
So yeah, the math really be letting you know. Even like
you're going to have me going upstairs going to do math,
I'm
bro.
about to
Go my daughter go do math. I ain't going to lie.
I'm taking this book home like,
I'm about to put the whole PEMDAS up and all that shit in my house, bro. Like, with the light
or dots, yeah. I recommend that though. I recommend that.
No, I definitely am for sure.
Also, multiplication tables. Like, put those up in your house like artwork. Like you got these pictures right here. Yeah.
Once you said that with the whole learning, like up to 12.
You can go past that. You can go past the 12s.
But I want to say this too because it's like to everybody, a lot of y'all don't know, like we learning as we in this pod too doing this episode, right? And I don't have that table upstairs all the way up to 12, right? I don't think my daughter knows all the way to 12. I'm gonna keep it a buck, right? So I'm glad you said that because now it's gonna make me be like, you know what? Amazon, go order a big ass table of all the way to 12 and hang it up and let's learn it. Let's learn it together because I know multiplication, but there's numbers that I'm be like, okay, I gotta count.
Right.
6, 12, 8. I gotta do that first instead of getting it that fast. Yeah. So I want to help myself too to also help her. So that's fine that you said that, bro. Like,
and one of the best things you could do too is like just at random times, like just when y'all out or like when she, you know, in the morning she come down to the kitchen, like what's 4 times 9? Just random. Just random. And then over time, and she might be slow at it at first. But again, it's repetition.
Right.
She's gonna get fast, and eventually, then you're gonna be asking her what 4 times 9. She'll be like 36.
Nice.
Yeah, she might say it before you even finish the question because she might be able to sense what you're about to say.
I can't wait for that.
That's just the practice. You got to practice. Just keep practicing.
My little man is like that, where we play little games like that with him, but what he does is he'll stop and he'll do the Rain Man. Look up real quick, and then you see that everything's playing. Then you see his hands. If they on the side, he'll start doing the fidgeting. He'll be like, it's 56. And he'll be like, all right, you got it.
Which is cool. It's still dope.
It's still going. So the next time we actually ask him, 2 times 4. Oh, okay. Boom. 8.
That's dope.
Easy. Like, I got it real quick. And the division is getting there now. That's why he mentioned division before. I'm 36. I just recently learned long division.
Yeah.
I fucking hate long division. I always hated it. I hated it since I was a kid. But since Jackson brought home this new math, they showed how to actually do it their way. And I was like, okay, that's how you do it. Yeah. So that's how I was like, all right.
It's a good feeling, right?
It's a great feeling.
It's a great feeling, yeah.
I feel like I accomplished something.
You did.
Word up, man. That's good.
Seriously, and this is only 5th grade math.
And it's never too late.
Nah.
It's never too late. I think what school does to us, it kind of kills our desire to learn because we get caught in this like trick bag where we think, okay, well, I go to 12th grade. Once I go to 12th grade, then unless you go to college, right? It's like I know everything I need to know. And then even some of us that go to college, it's like, okay, I went to college, I got my college degree. Now I know everything I need to know. I never need to pick up a book again for the rest of my life. I never need to study anything. It's like, nah, bro, like, we got to be lifelong learners. Like, just as human beings, we got to just continue to learn. We can't let an institution dictate how much we should know, because that's how we're able to get taken advantage of, because we have such deficits in terms of our knowledge, right? Yeah. Because if somebody says, well, I passed the class, like, what do you mean? I got an A. If I know everything. Like, nah, you don't. Like, that was just for that.
That is true.
There's always room. I always bring that up at work, because I'm a carpenter, but I like different trades. Yeah. So when I'm not doing the carpentry work, I'm also a locksmith. Okay. I go into the plumbing field. Okay. If the plumbing field's not right for me right now, I'm going to electrical. So there's always room for me to learn something, because at the end of the day, I don't want to call somebody and they feed me some bullshit.
And math, and like I know math is also used in that too, because even what we do too with elevators, like math, they also have what's the law called?
Is the Ohm's law.
Ohm's law, yeah.
Yeah. Like they teach us
electricity,
Ohm's
right?
Law,
Yeah. I don't know Ohm's law for shit. Yep. And I do, and I'm an elevator mechanic, but we don't use Ohm's law like that. But when you use it when you have to, which is very rare, super rare in our field. But yes, you also have to learn that.
That's cool.
Which is whatever is currents is what is it, current times
that's one of the ones I don't know.
Yeah, it's current times electricity or whatever, something like that. But it's something.
Don't worry, I got you. I'm going back to school for electrician.
So listen, right? So this book, right? Like, what's the age friendly to it? I know, like, from kids.
It varies. So it's a resource, like, really for parents and adults, but they can use it to help.
For the kids.
Yeah, they can use it to help, like, children. Because what I do is I take like 20 different, like, everyday examples or everyday situations, that you always find yourself in, and I'm basically showing you how you can make this a teachable moment. So how this can become an algebra lesson.
So pretty much, and I like that, because I know you teach a lot more of Black history with this, but in this book, it's not just Black history. It's just everything in life that you see in life. Like you said, license plates, credit card payments, and stuff like that. So I guess it makes us more aware on how to teach to our kids.
Because you know how, like, so I'm, as a mathematician, I'm immersed in math, right? I think about math from like what Styles P said, from the AM to the PM.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, still move work from the AM to the PM, right? So I think about math, like, constantly, like, all day long. So I see math problems, right? I come in here and I'm looking at math problems, potential math problems, right? With the rectangles, the different shapes. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about math problems.
How many on the line going down, going across?
Yeah, like geometry, algebra. But I understand that everybody doesn't do that,
right?
So I'm like, I wrote the book so I could, like, share some things that I've witnessed, and then, like, show you, like, all right, well, when you're doing this thing, like the chapter on license plate games.
Right? I was just about to bring it up just now, son. Look at this shit. I was just waiting for you to stop. This is dope. So this is dope, bro.
It's just like as you riding in the car anyway. You riding in the car, you see, like, the license plates, and have your children like, look at the license plate in the car in front of us. Like, let's play with those numbers. Let's add them up. Let's subtract them. Just as a way to, again, get their reps in.
Like, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3.
Yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah, I'm just reading it now, bro. I'm sorry, but this book is fire.
Just a way to get those reps in and just get the practice, because that's what happens. Like, a lot of children, they don't get enough practice. Yeah, we got to get the practicing, and a lot of people, children, even adults, teenagers, they're not good at math. Why? Because they don't do math.
Right.
And oftentimes it's like, well, math is like this subject, I'm uncomfortable with it, but I got to take the class because I need the credit because I want to graduate. So, but it's like, for this 50 minutes, I'm in a math class. That's the only time I care about math.
Like that, right? That's when you feel
after
the most
get out.
comfortable.
So when I come home, I'm not having mathematical conversations, or if I am having mathematical conversations, I don't realize that they are mathematical conversations. So it doesn't, in my brain, I'm not processing it like that. So I'm not thinking that, oh, wow, this is an opportunity for me to, like, really develop my mathematical skill set, right? Because I don't.
That's not important in your life. It's not important in your life.
Yeah, it's like the
math. We got to change that.
Most definitely, math get treated like the
stepchild,
the redheaded stepchild, the one that's all the way over on the corner somewhere. But then again, that one family member might be the most fun family member in the world.
But everybody loves to deal with money.
But they would never go to him.
But they would never go
to learn anything. Nah.
That's the amazing
about it. And to that point, there's like something like, because another thing that has motivated me in this work that I do is, like, being a younger teacher and hearing students say things like, why do I got to know this? When am I going to use this in life?
That was me. I ain't gonna lie.
And when I was earlier in the game, I didn't have a lot of good responses for that. And in fact, I would get emotional. I would get in my feelings. I would feel offended, right?
Okay.
So, but what I want to like, encourage like, teachers that might watch this is like, regulate your emotions. Like, don't get mad, right? Even if sometimes children are trying to be obnoxious by saying that they're trying to be jerks, right? Sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's an excellent question though, right? When are you going to use this? And it's different answers, right? For different students and in different situations. So me trying to just find like, oh, this is how you're going to use this, or this is how you're going to use this. Like, has like really motivated me like to, come up with like the different reels that I do.
Right.
Like I just be like outside just thinking of like different ways, like, oh, we're using algebra for this. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. Like, well, y equals mx plus b. This is how we actually use y equals mx plus b.
Right.
And like
you're giving them the background why you need to use it.
And one of the complaints about like, one of the responses that students will give is like, they always, you probably heard somebody say, y'all might have said this. All I need to know how to do is count my money.
Yeah. That's what I said.
So, but here's the problem with that. I want people to understand this. Here's the problem with that. Let's say you do a job for somebody, right? And, they say, all right, they pay you $100,
Yeah.
right? And you count out the $100 and give you $5 $20 bills, 20, 40, 60, 800. Okay, I counted my money. You know how to count your money, right? But do you ever stop to think, okay, well, based on the actual agreement that we had, how do I know that I wasn't supposed to get 300? Right?
Know your worth.
Because maybe the agreement had dealt with percentages.
Yep.
Maybe it dealt with some fractions, some algebra,
You're
right?
About that, yeah.
That you don't really know how to interpret, but you know how to count your money. But they'll give you however much money they want to give you.
Facts.
And as long as you know how to count it, because they'll tell you, okay, well, I got $100 for you, and then you're just gonna assume like that they're being fair, that it's good business.
Yeah, somebody just texted me today. Yo, I got a friend of mine who got locked out their house. How much you charge them to open up the crib, to pick their lock? I had to go through my head, percentage-wise, as labor costs, how much that will be, the timing.
Right.
I got to go get my picks. If I don't have my picks, I got to get a crowbar, pop the door open, stuff like that. That adds in to the amount of dollars that I might need from the customer.
Right.
That right there, all the percentages and all
That's
the
your
labor
overhead.
work. Exactly.
Overhead. Yeah, fact.
If I present that to you and show you, look, this is my rate card, you decide what you want to do, and you be like, oh, I'm good.
Right.
Now you're gonna look at me like, oh, this isn't. No, he knows his shit.
Right.
Compared to the next person, be like, yo, I'm just gonna give you $100. Go ahead, go about your business.
Right.
So I understand that 100%.
Yeah. So it's not about just knowing how to count your money. You got to know how to calculate if that's the appropriate amount of money that you're actually receiving.
Facts.
Yeah.
And this is what young people don't think about, because they just, they heard somebody say that and it sounded cute, and it's like, oh, it's a way for me to.
It sounds tough.
It's a way for me to like, reject math. Verbally.
Don't reject math, man. Like, this is the reason why we doing these type of episodes and all that, because this is actually fucking great, man. I'm learning, to be honest. And I'm telling you, I'm motivated right now to go up there and everything. So Akil, man, like, before we get out of here, man, let us know, man, what are you looking at this? I know you say you got volume 2 coming out, right?
Volume 2 this year.
Volume 2. So look, right now we got how to use all this math. Volume 1, right? I will put it up when we put up the video so y'all can see it. You know what I mean? Where can you find this book at?
Right now it's available on Amazon.
Amazon
right now. Yeah.
Listen, go check it out, man, honestly, because there's a lot of categories here that as you can see if you're watching the episode to now, I'm asking him like, oh, damn, I see all this right here. Like, it's very relatable, for sure. You know what I'm saying? So
even when you go to the supermarket and you don't know the prices of some charges on the tags, he shows you.
Yeah,
there
like,
you go.
You know what's so crazy too? I see you got how many months old are you, right?
Yeah.
And like, I never understood why somebody would be like, yeah, I'm like 39 and a half. I'll be like, I'm thinking, if you're gonna say an age, just do a whole number, right? And then now I just learned that when somebody says that, it means like they're 6 months into the year.
Yeah.
It's a way to practice. It's a way to practice math. My favorite chapter, if I could talk about that, my favorite chapter in the book is something, and again, a lot of this stuff is battle tested. Like, my daughter's right over there. Like, she'll tell you, like, a lot of this stuff, like, it's stuff that I did with her. So it works.
He's been proof.
She's living proof. And she's solid in math, right? So my favorite chapter is the negative age chapter. Like, what is your negative age, right?
I just looked at that.
So one day I was like, the way that came about was, one day I'm like, I'm talking to her, I'm talking to Asada, I'm like, telling her about something that happened like when I was like 5 years old or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Asada, something just told me to just ask her this question. I'm like, Asada, how old were you when that happened? She looked at me like I'm crazy. Like, Dad, I wasn't even born yet. What you talking about? Like, what you mean? Like,
negative age.
Negative
but
age.
I was trying to introduce her to the concept of negative numbers.
Yeah.
Right. So and it enables her to do some calculations. So she knows what year, she knows how old I am at the time of me telling her the story. So then she goes back and says, okay, well, you must have been born in 1980. So therefore, when you was 5 years old, what year was that? Do some more math, add 5, it's 1985. She knows what year she was born, 2012. So she's got to find the difference between 2000. So we talked about the number line earlier.
Yeah.
Her 0, you talk about like what if 0 got taken out of the number system, right?
Yeah.
Her 0 is the year 2012. So for all of us in our number line, our birth year, that's our year 0.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she can find the difference between the year 2012 and 1985. And then what's that? 15 plus 12. That's 27.
Negative 27.
So she was negative 27 years old. When I was 5 years old, she was negative 27 years old.
Right? Button.
And then it gets deeper because when I'm doing presentations about this, like for the mothers, when the mothers are talking to, because you can segue into a biology lesson because you know how like girls are born with all their ovaries.
Right.
So a little girl that's doing something when she 5, her daughter or son was technically there. Because girls are born with all their ovaries.
That's crazy.
That's also, but that's also like, yeah, that's true.
Whoa.
Somebody did question that. Like, I see somebody question that though. They was like, wait, so how are we like 1 month years old? No, yeah, like how are we months old when we come out?
Yeah.
But we was 9 months in the stomach though. Like that makes
how we not 9 months and we like 0 months?
Yeah, that's okay.
That's some other thing.
It's where you start to count.
There you go.
Oh
man,
start to count every.
So man, listen. We appreciate you for coming, man. Like this is a dope lesson. I'm not gonna lie,
bro.
to
We
you.
would have been here forever, bro.
Yeah, we would definitely be here for. Yeah, we would definitely be here forever for sure. Like, but
I'll come back, man. Let me. Just,
we could definitely do that, man. Like, cause I want to get more into it and all that.
Yeah,
and then we could definitely revisit again, man.
Yeah,
like,
when Volume 2 comes out,
Volume 2 comes out for
2
sure.
comes out,
Yeah, man.
But you should actually hop on our live though on Wednesday.
On Wednesdays, right?
Xperience Talk Wednesdays. Yeah,
I will.
Wednesday will be fire.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
for sure.
I can't do it next Wednesday, but we'll definitely schedule that.
Oh yeah,
We can schedule it.
Definitely
Let us know,
schedule
yeah.
that.
for sure.
That'd be great.
I think that'll be dope. Before you come back for the second book,
Yeah.
the live, because more people watch it live, and we can have more conversation into that,
for
And
sure.
which will be
more
fire.
questions. Yeah, they'll have more questions on why is it that Y has to be next to X plus.
Yeah, I got answers.
He got answers,
for all of
man.
that.
So,
Answers for all
Akil,
of that.
man, can you give us a few words, man, for inspiration, aspiration, motivation for the audience that are watching you right now, man?
Yeah, definitely. So, parents, I definitely want you all to like, if you have a fear of math, if you're just uncomfortable with math, if you never really, math wasn't really your thing, and you have children now, definitely do your best to like try to get past that, for the sake of your children. Definitely for the sake of your children. It might be easier said than done, but there are resources. That's one of the reasons that I created the resources that I created. The YouTube channel. My YouTube channel has over 850 videos on it, ranging from arithmetic up to calculus 1, and we're about to hit 7,000 subscribers at the time of this recording. So that's been growing.
I'm a ball for that.
And so yeah, the resources are there. I break the math down. I make it make sense. I try to make it simple. I also infuse like some Black history into it, and I just I'm probably not like. I'm not like any math teacher you might have had. Like people always say this, like, I wish you'd have been my math teacher. I should have known you 30 years ago or whatever. But, but that's what you'll get on the YouTube channel. So the resources are there, and there are a lot of YouTube resources out there, a lot of books out there.
But it ain't nothing like his.
Yeah.
Shout out your YouTube real quick, bro.
Yeah, YouTube, All This Math. So go to All This Math. That's the name of the company. I'm gonna have merch coming soon on my Shopify account once I set that up. But there'll probably be a link to it on the YouTube channel. But yeah, All This Math on YouTube. Please, go in there, subscribe, like some videos, share some videos. Don't hoard it. Share with everybody. Put it in your group chats and everything. Yeah, share the knowledge. I also take requests. For if there's a problem you need, and you don't see a video for it in one of the playlists, because I got everything organized by topic on different playlists. Then just reach out.
Nice.
I'm on social media, All This Math on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. The website is allthismath.com. And, we also offer like virtual math tutoring. So we got that also. But, the YouTube channel is, kind of like my major focus right now. Like, You know, because you can, you know, tap into that whenever, you know, you want to. Like, you know, 24/7, 365. As long as you got Wi-Fi, that's all you need.
Yeah.
That's it.
You know,
And we all got
pull
Wi-Fi.
that up.
That's
know?
true. That's fire.
So, man, thank you, bro. Appreciate you, man. This is very dope, inspiring, man. Hope y'all like this episode. So you already know. Peace, bless, love. Give thanks to that man above.
Love, prosper, y'all.
Stay educated, everybody.
Peace.